Hopefully they're beefing up that defensive line, which I know Sam Pittman was talking about last week. But we might as well ask Tom, since we've taken all of your opinions on potatoes. Tom, it's National Potato Day. Fries, hash browns, baked potatoes, twice bakes, vodka. What is your what is your potato item of choice?
What's up, guys? Always a pleasure. I've never had potato vodka, but every other, you're in my sweet spot right there. I'm a huge potato guy. I like them to be crispy on the outside and somewhat tender on the inside. And so there's a ton of different ways to do that.
Tom, of course, writes for Whole Hog Sports and Arkansas Democrat-Gazette.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought we were comparing it to Bubba Gump in all the ways he said you could prepare shrimp. I think potatoes may be even more versatile. And Sam Pittman talked about mashed potatoes on his plate yesterday there in Little Rock. Talking about beefing up, Ty's right. It sounds like from the last few visits with the head coach, beefing up the defensive line kind of seems to be the message of the last few days.
Yeah, it really has, because David Oakey might be sidelined for a while. Looks like he might have to have one of those cartilage fixes in his knee. Could miss a couple of games. And, I mean, he's already a guy who came in and was banged up a little in spring, so he's kind of running behind. And of all the places on their team, defensive tackles where they might have the least amount of depth, at least veteran depth. And so you might see one of the younger guys get some action this season. So it's a point of concern because you need it. I mean, you got to hold up against the run. You got to at least tie up blockers in the pass rush. And so can they get through with Cam, Ian, and Danny Salee? Maybe, but you don't want to go through whole games with just three guys. So they're going to have to get some help there. They might have to run some three-man fronts and do some different stuff to improve the depth there.
So are they deep enough at linebacker, or are they deep enough at other places if they go three-man front? And Xavier Sori's been out. It doesn't sound like anything serious, but they were holding him out after an undisclosed procedure. Is there enough with Dix and Sori and the other cast at linebacker to maybe cover those front gaps?
Well, that's going to be one of the great questions about this team is the amount of depth in that front seven. And I like their linebacker core, and clearly Travis Williams and Sam Pittman do as well. But, yeah, we got to wait for Sori to come back from the hamstring deal. And then, Bradley Shaw was pushing for playing time no matter if everybody was healthy or not. So I do think early in the season we might see a little bit heavier. And Bradley Shaw is a bigger type linebacker, too, like a thicker guy. So I think we're going to see more of him. I think they're going to have to maybe experiment with some ways to use, three-man fronts and have, they have a buck position, a stand-up guy on the edge, and you got several guys like Charlie Collins and Ken Talley and some guys doing that. But that's going to be one of the great questions for Travis Williams and the defensive staff is how to maximize personnel but be able to hold up against the run with enough beef up the middle and, linebackers filling the gaps properly and such, and also generate enough of a pass rush.
Yeah, I mean, you would think you'd bring another linebacker on the field and, like you said, walk them up. Would you bring maybe more of a nickel or dime look in the secondary and bring them closer to the line of scrimmage? I guess it'd be determined by who you're playing in their schemes, but from a personnel standpoint, those aren't really, I think, questions you want to be answering at this point, Tom.
Well, they just want to be so multiple that they can handle what's coming at them. If it's a super spread team or if it's a team that runs a lot of, wham, isolation type stuff with blocking backs. And so Larry Worth is a guy who I think they mentioned him as a money guy where he could come down and be basically a linebacker as well. And I don't think they're super thick at safety. Miguel Mitchell might weigh 221. Worth is probably 225. But beyond that, I mean, Shakur Small's not a super big guy. Caleb Wooden's certainly not a super big guy. They're more, pass coverage type dudes. So, again, we're talking about depth. We're talking about depth at defensive tackle and then the heavy hitter type safety depth. And it's one of the biggest questions on this team.
Yeah. And maybe if you don't get ripped apart with the run, maybe you just drop someone else back and, don't really go after the quarterback and try to get coverage plays that way. I mean, again, that comes back to who you're playing in their scheme, but there's a lot of different ways to win with your defensive scheme.
No doubt. I've gotten the gist in the last week or so that they felt like, and Marcus Woodson actually used the term, in some situations there was a lack of trust in coverage, meaning the cornerbacks weren't covering in man properly enough. And obviously the biggest example is the Ole Miss game where they could not put someone on Jordan Watkins and keep him from getting behind them. But that's not – they want to be what they call a deny team, which obviously signifies more man defense, and be aggressive with that. But you have to have the personnel to match up with it. And I think last year we saw more zone and that three-deep safety look because they weren't matching up well. That's why they recruited like they did at cornerback, and they just hope they hold up better so they can be more aggressive and be more of a deny type passing team, pass defense.
Tom Murphy with us here on the Morning Rush, courtesy of the Arkansas Beef Council. Tom, I think Coach Woodson talked about it. I know Travis Williams talked about it yesterday. I've heard Petrino, I've heard Pittman, I've heard other players. But they keep talking about Mike Washington. You've seen him you've seen him in practice, I should say. Of any player, he's probably getting the most hype of any transfer. Like, what can you tell our audience about what this kid brings to the running back room for Arkansas?
Yeah, there's no question about what you just said, and it's evident in the fact that his team. I think there were 10 teams in summer that were competing against each other, and his team won it. They say he's a super quiet guy. We've had him in the interview room in spring and in this camp, but he seems a pleasant guy who really wants to prove something. You come from upstate New York, you don't get the recruiting attention that you would if you were in the South. And then he plays for 3 years. I can't remember.
Buffalo and New Mexico State, I think.
Yeah, Buffalo for 3 years, and then New Mexico State. So you're not playing at high-profile deals. I think he felt like he was always capable of being an SEC-type back, and now he's got 1 year to do that. And it's pretty clear. I mean, I know the state folks love Braylon Russell and all, but I think he's clear 1A running back, and Braylon Russell is going to be your hammer. If things go as they like and they're a good run-blocking team, you run Mike Washington some, get the defense worn down a little bit, and Braylon Russell can hammer on you. So, and then Rodney Hill can be the fast back. So I think they got a really good combination. Washington clearly has been – it's a go-to guy to the point of, hey, maybe you don't want him live tackled anymore for the rest of camp, and they might be in that situation.
So, Tom, Coach Pittman's talked about this before, like the balance of keeping guys healthy versus obviously going live, being physical. I know they've transitioned a number of different ways in year 6 heading here to Fayetteville. What is the fine balance? Like, because defensive line-wise, you're thin. You alluded to it. Running back, you pretty much know what you got in Mike Washington for what you've seen all spring and fall. Like, how do you think Sam Pittman and his staff go about, like, keeping guys out there versus pulling them when it comes to getting ready for the season in 11 days?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, you don't want Steven Dix and Xavier Sorey and Bradley Shaw taking more damage, tackles than because they're proven players. And if the guys have proven it to them, Cam Ball, we know he's coming off of an elbow. Well, he doesn't need to be out there banging in every live tackling period you have. You got to keep him fresher. So, the same might hold true for a Larry Worth-style guy. Clay Henry's real big on the shoulders with your safeties. Well, limit the amount of damage their shoulders have to undergo. So, those guys, and then, Washington, you don't need to run Braylon Russell that much for the rest of camp. Rodney Hill's been dinged up a little. So, and, of course, Taylon Green hasn't taken any hits as the quarterback, but maybe the receivers are a different thing. You have to keep those guys in there to show who's going to be tough, who's going to make catches over the middle and things like that. So it's position by position and player by player on that type of call.
And honestly, if you can't outclass your opponent the first 2 games, some of this logic you're talking about, which I agree with, could even be carried through the second game into your third game where you're trying to manage contact, manage reps. Let's be honest, if a SWAC team and a Sunbelt team, if you can't outclass them with your 2s and 3s, then there's probably a sign of bigger problems with your depth for games to come in SEC play.
Well, that's a great point, and I don't know how Alabama A&M is going to compare to UAPB, but they scored 10 touchdowns on 10 possessions in that opener last year. And how do you ever match that? I mean, that's really difficult. So you beat them, but then I'm not gonna say that Arkansas State won't be a challenge. They'll be up for the game, obviously. Butch Jones has done a really nice job at Arkansas State. And with Rayner, they have a quarterback who can give you some problems. But if you go position by position, Arkansas ought to be deeper, bigger linemen and that type of thing. But I also agree that if Xavier Sawyer doesn't need to get a ton of work in those first two games, then don't do it. If Mike Washington has a big first quarter against Alabama A&M, then run the rest of those backs. Get A.J. Green some playing time.
Absolutely.
See if he's going to help you this year.
That's what I'm saying.
That kind of thing.
Preach it on, Brother Murphy. Because
it applies across the board, Tommy.
Right.
Every position.
It's about being as healthy as you can possibly be when you go to Oxford, Mississippi. Because
it really is.
However you want to manage that between now and September 13th, you manage it that way. Whatever day that, 13th, 14th, whatever day that is. But your third game, you want to be as healthy as possible.
25.
And get with it.
Yeah, 25 days out. 11, 18, 20. Yep.
I was talking about calendar days, but that would be my mindset if I was the head hog right now.
Right. And the coaches probably think about that kind of thing a little bit, but it's more about what we need to do to win that game. And then if they feel they have the Alabama A&M game in hand, if y'all remember, I think they did a running clock in the second half against UAPB.
They shortened the quarters.
Shortened the quarters. Okay, that's right, 10-minute quarters. But so it could have been worse. But get through that first game as trouble-free, injury-free as you can, and then Arkansas State will have some surprises for them. There will be some special teams things. There will be some trick things because they're going to lay it on the line because of the importance of that game. So the Razorbacks have to be ready for that, obviously. But you're right. The Ole Miss game carries so much weight this year. It's a conference opener. It's a team that spanked you last year. A lot riding on that game.
100%. All right, Tom, it's hot, but we're going to get a little break from that heat. That's the best thing. And I know a lot of those guys are ready for camp to kind of wind down, and we'll get into game week now that school's back in session.
That's absolutely right. The practicing in the afternoons it's a lot hotter than it had been for them for a lot of camp. It was a mildish type August so far, and so the afternoons are going to get them ready for the heat of the September games that is going to be there. And I think it's good for the team to be able to work out in that type of environment.
All right. Tom, let's do it again on Thursday.
Let's do it. See ya.
All right, Tom Murphy. Been at the practice field for the last month, and he gives us an update every Tuesday and Thursday.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, H-O-G-S, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Got a little jingle